Alright, so in this video I'll briefly discuss space. As we've already discussed, there's positive space, the space that's taken up by objects, and negative space, the space that is not taken up by stuff. Well, why is that important? Well, when it comes to art and life in general, most people like for things to be placed well, or balanced. Symmetry, which is balanced, meaning if you drew a line down the center, things would be identical on both sides, versus asymmetry, which is not perfectly balanced. In extreme cases, if you try to arrange something asymmetrically, people who have OCD in this regard can become very uncomfortable. For the rest of us, think of it in this way. Would you feel more comfortable walking into a room that is neat and orderly, or completely cluttered with stuff just tossed everywhere? That is why in most still life drawings or paintings you will find only a few arranged objects, not dozens. And generally those arranged objects relate to each other somehow, all fruits and veggies perhaps, or musical instruments and sheet music, an arrangement of flowers. In any case, the artist wants you to notice just those items, not get lost in the confusion of a bunch of random junk. How you arrange those items as the artist is up to you. Will you arrange them as symmetrically as possible, or asymmetrically? Keep in mind that asymmetry is not necessarily a bad thing if it's done well. Asymmetry can keep things interesting. If, for example, you have one large item on the right side and several smaller things on the left to balance things out, it could be just fine. Space also indicates depth, a feeling that if you were to step into the artwork, you'd have room to move around. If you're dealing with strictly 2D shapes, you probably would not get that feeling of depth. This is where foreground, middle ground, and background come into play. In your project, everything will pretty much be in the foreground, but unless you line things up side by side, which won't be very interesting, you'll have to overlap them. Now, that overlap does tend to indicate depth in your arrangement. Perspective also comes into play here, but that's for another class entirely, or another 3 classes at least. But basically, perspective in drawing and painting, in a nutshell, is a way of portraying 3 dimensions on a flat, 2-dimensional surface by suggesting depth or distance. A very basic example is one you might have already done while doodling, changing a square to a cube, for example. For more on this, continue on to the next video.